Many of my aspiring friends are always telling me that they want to pursue these great and prestigious careers: doctors, orthopedic surgeons, actuary scientists, or even aerospace engineers. Well, my name is Daniel, and I want to become a professional drug dealer. Well, for those of you who are confused, they often go by the lesser-known name of a pharmacist. Whenever I say the word pharmacist, what do you think of? Probably an overglorified cashier or a white guy in a lab coat that just counts pills. Well, pharmacy is so much more than that. It's a career in which you have the ability to directly or indirectly affect a person's life for the better. This is something I wish to be able to do through my career. It's because of this I chose Albert Einstein's quote, "Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile." It really sums up what I believe to be one of the most important characteristics in a person: compassion and a willingness to help. A little bit about myself. My family, I have a family of 4. I have a younger sister named Katie, and she's currently in middle school at Hunt. I'm in the band. I'm an avid member of the band. I play the saxophone, I'm in the jazz band, and I'm on the varsity ensemble. For college, I'm hoping to attend the University of Texas at Austin and major in chemistry. And it's because of my affinity for science that I want to do that and pursue a career in pharmacy. Why did I decide to do ISM? Well, I wanted to explore a career that I had never looked into before, which was pharmacy. I also wanted to gain experience in the real world, and I had heard from a lot of friends that you could do a lot of great things in ISM. ISM has also given me the opportunity to meet many people that I wouldn't have been able to meet before. And some of these people are the ones that I've interviewed. My first interview was with Bob Blanford. He was the Director of Pharmacy Services at Baylor Medical Center. He explained to me the difference between hospital and retail pharmacy and the flexibility that hospital pharmacy gives you as opposed to a career in the retail field. He also told me, however, that pharmacy was a really mundane career. It was one filled with emails and sitting in front of a computer all day just comparing data. Our hospital pharmacy specifically also lended little to patient interaction, which was kind of sad for me because I knew I wanted to help, or I wanted to work with people directly. My next interview was with Mr. Akinze. He was the owner and manager of his own retail pharmacy, Trinity North Pharmacy. He told me about the business aspect of pharmacy, which was a lot. Basically, a pharmacy is another store that you would create. It sells commodities that people need, and you have to maintain stock and inventory. He also told me about the patient interaction at a retail pharmacy is different than one at a hospital. You have a lot more patient interaction because of the fact that you're selling their medicine to them directly. But this also comes with a lot of headaches because of the fact that people can be mean sometimes. It's also really rewarding because he can see that he's having a direct impact on people. Maybe one week somebody will come in and they'll come in sick and get medicine, but then the next week they come in and they're fine. He also told me that you have to have a lot of passion in order to do retail pharmacy, especially running your own business, or else your business is just going to go straight into the ground. And finally, he told me that pharmacy, or retail pharmacy especially, is all about being on your feet. You're on your feet all day, and you never even have a chance to sit down. My next interview was with Mr. Pan and Mr. Oyunga. This was a really interesting interview because I had originally scheduled it with Mr. Pan, but in the middle of the interview, the owner walked in, and I was able to get an impromptu interview with him also. They told me specifically about compounding and compounding pharmacy, which was something that I found to be really interesting. It gave the patient the ability to create a personalized medicine just for them. Maybe they can't swallow pills, so they could crush up the pills and put it into a liquid form so they can drink it. He also told me that in a smaller pharmacy, you have to balance multiple duties. So the pharmacy manager didn't just manage the pharmacy, they also managed stock inventory and the hiring of people and dealing with insurance companies. A rule that he told me to live by was to always protect your license, because without your license you won't be able to have a job. So basically your license is your life. You also have to be able to problem solve very well, especially in a compounding pharmacy, because of the fact that you need to create basically new medicine for specific people. And then also, since this compounding pharmacy was a retail pharmacy, you had to know how to deal with people. My next interview was with Mr. Zula, who was a vice president of business solutions. At first, I was like, why do I want to even interview him? Because he's in business solutions and nothing to do with pharmacy. Well, it turns out he had a lot of information regarding pharmacy and the inner workings of a large corporation pharmacy, which was the U.S. Bioservices. Since they were a specialty pharmacy, they dealt a lot with high-cost products. So instead of like a $1,000 bottle of medicine in a hospital, it would be a $20,000 box. He also told me that it was really rewarding because he knew that he was helping people and what he was doing was for a good cause. And there was a large problem with specialty pharmacy is with all the regulations that he has to deal with. He has to comply to the regulations or else his company could be shut down. And one of the coolest things I learned from him was all the different pathways that you could go down as a pharmacist. The pharmacist gives you so much flexibility into what careers you can go to. He started off as a retail pharmacist, went to a hospital pharmacy, went into a small family-owned business, and then ended up at a large-scale corporation, which I thought was really cool. Through him, I actually got contacts for two pharmacists, Michelle Smoot and Tom Matthews. Miss Smoot was actually there during my interview. Mr. Zula walked me down to Miss Smoot afterwards, so I kind of had like a 2-hour interview. She taught me that mistakes are costly because they were a specialty pharmacy and because they had so much high-cost medicine. If you dropped a box of medicine, you're basically screwed. She also told me about how ascension she was able to ascend really high into her company, just starting off really low. Because it was a large-scale corporation, there were many opportunities to move up and many opportunities to move into a new position. And then one of the last things she did was take me into their actual pharmacy, which is really cool. One of the things I noticed was it was more of an assembly line rather than a face-to-face patient pharmacy. So at one end, you would have the people packing the medicine. On the other hand, you would have them filling it and checking if it was the right ones. From here, after that, I met Tom Matthews, he was another specialty pharmacy manager at the Walgreens Specialty Pharmacy. One of the first things I noticed walking in was that there were a ton of cubicles, and it basically looked like a giant call center. This was a giant red flag to me because I wanted to go into pharmacy because I wanted to have the patient interaction. I wanted to be on my feet all day. I thought that would be interesting. He told me, though, that specialty pharmacy was good because patients want to talk to you. The patients that go to specialty pharmacies are ones with high or chronic diseases, so they need to have constant medication and help. So most of them spend their days at home alone, just on their programs getting medicine or trying to get better. And when they're able to talk to people, it's really great for them. One of the life lessons he taught for me was to choose a career that was best for my lifestyle, not just because I had a high salary. You had to choose something that you like to do, or else you would probably hate yourself later on. And then to do this, you would have to research careers. So he told me a bunch of places to go research careers and do a lot of research into pharmacy before choosing a pathway that I wanted to go on. From Mr. Matthews, I got the contact information of Mr. Bobby Dobbins. He was specialty pharmacy manager again, and he was right next door. So I basically just drove back to the same place the next week and had an interview with him. Some of the things he taught me was computer work, or it was a lot of computer work for him as a manager. His duties were to manage the pharmacy, and he didn't do much actually in the pharmacy. He said you had to maintain positivity to create a positive work environment. That would create productivity with your workers and with yourself. You had to be organized and basically perfect, because if you screw up on somebody's medication, you could probably kill them. One of the cool things about Mr. Dobbins is, after a lot of hard work, I was able to get him as my mentor. And if you notice, I changed his job description from pharmacy manager to pharmacy manager and Daniel's mentor. Getting him as my mentor was a lot of hard work, especially for Coach Goff. We had to go through about 8 pages of paperwork and contracts, get liability insurance, and myself, I actually had to be in a pharmacy tech training program in order to be his mentor because of Walgreens. I recently had my first mentor visit, which was amazing. Not only was Mr. Dobbins really nice, but everyone at the pharmacy was really nice and really willing to help. I didn't just learn from Mr. Dobbins. He actually sent me off to one of the other pharmacists, and he taught me pretty much everything I know right now about cystic fibrosis. What I loved about that place was the work environment. Everyone was really calm and really open, and they weren't really, I don't know, like uptight per se. And they were all willing to teach. My other research came from research assessments, which were information that I pulled from databases that I annotated and looked into for information. One of the first things I found was about the characteristics needed to be a pharmacist, which were to be outspoken, detail-oriented, willing to help. You have to have a lot of teamwork, and you have to be business-minded. Most of those I covered in the interviews. I also researched technology, because technology has always been something that's fascinated me. And one of the things that people always told me was, pharmacy is just counting pills, so your job's going to be taken over by machines within a couple of years. Well, one of the things I learned was technology wasn't there to replace people, it was there to help. Because of technology, that you could speed up time and be able to save your time for people that needed it, the patients who have questions and the patients that need somebody to talk to. The picture that I have on the screen is actually a really cool piece of machinery. It basically, you would scan a barcode on the prescription, and it would pull up the prescription straight from the shelf and then put it basically into your hand. And then the last article one of the other articles that I did was one on specialty pharmacy. This was after I had interviewed all of those specialty pharmacists. I had no idea what it was before then, so I wanted to look further into it. And basically, specialty pharmacy is a central hub where all of your medical needs for somebody who has a chronic disease can be put into one place. So it'll make it easier for them and easier on the insurance companies. It also creates a patient bond between the pharmacist and the patient, because the patient will be going to the same place, presumably, every time they need to come back. And they come back at least once a month. Some of the real-world experiences that I got to do through ISOM was through the Business Symposium, which was where we got to practice our interview skills on professionals in the real world. We also went on a UNT visit where I was able to sit into 3 classes and experience what it was like to be a college student for a day. It was really cool to see that college is really different than high school. One of the things that I saw was that there was a separate class just for labs. One of the problems in AP chemistry right now is that we don't have enough time to do labs, and splitting it up into 2 different class periods makes it so much easier for you to complete them. Also, through my pharmacology class, I was able to do hospital visits, and I was able to go into the Centennial Medical Center pharmacy and get some real-world or hands-on experience in a pharmacy. This was just something cool I did. This is actually the chemical structure of ibuprofen, which is Advil and Motrin. So for my original work, I created that blue binder right there. And my objective was to create a useful informational tool that would not only function, but would also teach me along the way. So the process of me creating it was brainstorming research, which led to a revised plan, continued research, compiling the info, and then polishing and then printing it. So in the brainstorming process, I knew I wanted to create something that was useful, something that could be used maybe in or out of the pharmacy. I wanted it to be something different. I knew a lot of people were going to do research and try to compile data from surveys and create a research assessment. So I wanted to create something that was tangible. So what I came up with was a recipe book for compounded medicines. Well, that led to some problems. Through research, I found that most of the recipes were hidden. Most of the companies didn't want to share their recipes with other companies because that's kind of how they made money. Another problem was it was also very unstandardized. Cream that could be used for testosterone from one company would be different than another company. So I couldn't really find a list that compiled the top compounded medicines, which was what I was hoping to find. So in order to fix this, I decided to change and revise my original work into creating a binder with a bunch of compounding ingredients. Through this, I learned that ingredients are pre-existing. Most of the ingredients used in compounding aren't specifically made for medicines. They actually use prescription medications that already exist and crush them up and then put them into other substances to create new medicines. So each page inside my binder looks like this. It has the name of the prescription drug, the dosage forms, which I found in my pharmacology research cards from my pharmacology class. It has a description of what the medicine was originally made for, which I found from online databases, and then its uses when it's combined with other ingredients. One of the cool things I found was that some of the ingredients, when mixed with other stuff, would yield a different use than what it was originally made for. So, for example, baclofen is normally used as an oral pill for as a muscle relaxant, but whenever crushed up and put into a lotion and applied transdermally, it becomes a pain reliever. This was just a photo of the product that I found from the product website or on the internet. And this was the chemical makeup, which is useful for a compounding pharmacist because then they know how that chemical will react to other chemicals that they decide to mix their medicine into. Things I learned through this process was that compounding was very unstandardized. I could not find a place where there was a database with like all the compounding recipes or all the compounding ingredients. And a lot of the websites what I found on the FDA website was the FDA didn't standardize anything either. They don't have any rules on compounded medicines. The recipes vary a lot, just like cooking. Somebody's cake could be different than another person's cake, and they would taste different. So it also works like that with compounded medicines. There was also a lot of health problems regarding compounded medicines because they were unstandardized and not regulated by the FDA. There were a lot of problems with sterileness and putting the wrong stuff together and giving it to patients. And then one of the things I covered was it was just mixing existing medication rather than creating completely new ones. So through ISM, I was able to grow a lot throughout the year. So far, I've gained a lot of confidence. I've had the courage to speak in front of the entire class without stumbling too much. I've had the courage to speak to adults, which I had never done in the past. I can now go up to an adult, shake their hand, talk to them, and start a real conversation with them rather than my old me who used to hide from adults and kind of hide within my own crowd. I've gained a lot of experience in the half year that I've done this program. Through my interviews, I've learned a lot more than I would have just searching the internet for knowledge. ISM has been all about completing my small goals and learning as much as I can so that I'll be able to reach my large goals in time. In the end, I'll get to step back and take a good look at what I've accomplished from this class, knowing that it's been very helpful in a multitude of ways. ISM is a small but great step forward into the rest of my life. That's it.